Shabbat Shalom. Wonderful. Is yours on? I should just do that to be fun. We're going to try and make sure that we don't have feedback. Okay. Can you still hear me? Okay. Hopefully I won't have to go down there a couple times. I think we're good. Two of us. That's true. There are two of us to do that. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is really a great opportunity for us to be together, as always. And I want us to just take a moment to say hello to the people who are sitting around us and wish you a Shabbat Shalom. And thank you for being a part of our community. Can you not hear me? It's not clear. Could be my hair. Let me see. Is that work there? Should we try to turn it up or is it better? Okay. Just look at me and go like this if you can't hear it. It's a different microphone that I'm using. Is there another one that has the earpiece like yours? I think we figured it out. So take some time getting to know each other while I figure this out. Thank you. Still reverb. Okay, am I more clear at this point? Is this a better microphone for us? Okay. Yeah. Tina just said it's like the eye doctor, 1 or 2? All right, so now that we've said hello to everyone, we've wished each other Shabbat Shalom. We'll turn to page 10, where we'll find the words for Hine Matov, and I invite you to join with me, and please sing as loud as you can. On page 10 at the top. Hine Matov u'manayim, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine Matov, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine Matov, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine Matov, Hine Matov, Yadadai, Yadadai, Yadadai. Hine Matov, Hine Matov, Yadadai, Yadadai, Yadadai. On the same page, just beneath it, we have the words for Maya Yafeh Hayom, how lovely is the day. Shabbat Shalom. Maya Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Maya Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Maya Yafeh Hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Maya Yafeh Hayom. Shabbat Shalom. We turn now to page 2 for the lighting of our Shabbat candles. And Aaron, I heard you will be doing the honor tonight. Please come forward.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu b'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Read the English.
If you'd like to.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with mitzvot and command us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
Thank you. Amen. We turn now to page 20, and to quote Courtney, we will do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, which we are most used to. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Ishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, Shelo echad, L'shemu tiferet v'li tehila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lehuven elcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Hitorori, hitorori, hiva orech kumiori, uri, uri, shir daberi, kevod Adonai, alayich nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Oiva shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha uvetzola, toch emune am segula, boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela. We turn now to page 26. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, v'yom madirach v'yom lichmahute, v'chayechon u'v'yom echon u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, agala b'agala u'v'zman kariv v'yimeru, amen. Yehi shmei Termam Vitnase, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal, Shemeda Kudasha, Beriku, Le'ela, Mikobir Katava, Shirata, Tushbekata, Vanechamata, Dahamiram Yama, Vimaru, Amen. Please rise for Baruch. Baruch Hu et Adonai, HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai, HaMevorach, Leolam Vaed. We pray together on page 30, together in Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach she'arim, u'vituna v'shaneh itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'mesader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, u'ma'avir yom u'mevi layla, Umavdil ben yom u'ben layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, Tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv aravim. On page 32, everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. We continue with V'ahavta, page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu advarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha v'neitecha v'lechtecha v'derech v'shokbecha v'kumecha v'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha v'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha v'visharecha l'ma'an tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim l'hiot lachem l'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Amen. Page 38. All this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us. You alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign and Savior, who delivers us from oppressors' hands and saves us from tyrants' fists. You work wonders without number, marvels beyond count. You give us life and steady our footsteps. You performed miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel out from their midst to freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha netar b'kodesh, norat tehilot oseh vele, norat tehilot oseh vele. מלכותך ראו בניך, חוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל Yisrael. We continue on the following page. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up our guardian to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. As we prepare for the Amidah, we turn to page 46 and rise. Adonai sifata tiftachu fi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips so that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGiבור, HaNorah,
לזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביאונה לפני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרא שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. שיבה רוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומזהיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך גיבורות, ומיתו מלך, מלך מניב ומחיה, ומצליח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. You may be seated. On the top of page 55, we pray together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ritzei, Ritzei, Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, Be'amcha Yisrael, U'tefilatam, Be'ahava tekabel, U'tehi l'ratzon tamid, U'tehi l'ratzon tamid, Avodat Yisrael Amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha, le'ira navod. She'otecha levadecha, le'ira navod. On page 59, towards the bottom. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimecha ulecha na'eh lehodot. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael, bashalom. We take a moment for private prayer and reflection. You might choose to use the words on the following page or words of your own choosing. Ose shalom imrumav, u'ya'ase shalom aleinu, ve'al Yisrael, v'imru amen. Ya'ase shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al Yisrael. Ya'ase shalom, shalom aleinu 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 ve'al kol Yisrael. We turn to page 244 and rise physically or spiritually as the Torah is taken from our ark. Ein kamocha Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kemasecha, malchutecha malchut kol amim, u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Turn the page. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. U'devar Adonai b'Yerushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, le'amo Yisrael, midushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadol Adonai iti, Oneroma Shemo yachdav, Lecha Adonai hakedula vehakedula vehatiferet vehanetzach vehahod, ki chol bashamayim u'ba'aretz, ki chol bashamayim u'ba'aretz, Lecha Adonai hamalacha, ve'amis na'aseh lechol erosh. You may be seated.
This evening, the Torah portion that we are reading is Parshat Shemini. Shemini comes from the same root as the word Shmona, which is the Hebrew word for 8, because it means eighth, referring back to that 8th day of the ceremony of ordaining priests and consecrating the tabernacle. So our portion begins there with the consecration and their first sacrifices, and it continues shortly after with the sudden deaths of Nadav and Abihu, Aaron's sons, who die as a result of offering strange fire to God. And in the next part, which is the part I will be reading, we hear the instructions about the dietary laws of kashrut, and the portion would then conclude with some of the laws about ritual purity. If you'd like to follow along in the Torah reading, page 712 is the page in the Plaut Chumash, page 712. And I'm going to try to do this interspersed with the English translation, but I'll be honest, my eyes sometimes get lost because the same words happen over and over again. So if that keeps happening, it might stop. And just read the translation afterward. So the blessing can be found, I believe, on page 250, and I invite you to join with me. Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach, Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed, Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch et Adonai notin ha'Torah. V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe v'el Aharon lemor. And God spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying the following, lemor aleihem, saying to both of them, Dabru el bnei Israel, speak to the Israelites, lemor, saying, Zot hachaya, these are the living beings, asher tochelu, mikol habehema, that you are able to eat from among the beasts, asher al haaretz, upon the earth. Kol mafreset parasa v'shosa shesa, parsat ma'alat kera. So hopefully you're familiar with some of these words. They will repeat themselves several times in the next few minutes. They are that the animals need to have split hooves, cloven feet, and chew their cud. Sound familiar, I hope? Yeah. But if ma'alat kera, the behema atah tochelu. Ach et ze lo tochlu, that these you are not allowed to eat, bima alei hagera, from among all these others, bima frisei haprasa, from those that are not necessarily eating, you don't eat them, if they only chew their cud, or if they only have the split hoof, such as the gamal, which sounds a lot like what we would call it, which is the camel, kima alage rahu, because this is, again, that they only chew the cud, or only have part of their hoof that is split. Farsa enena mafris tamehi lachem. These are considered impure to you. Ve'et shafan. Now, shafan is an interesting word. I've seen, I want to say, 3 different words that translated to it, and I still have no idea what type of an animal it is. The word appears twice in the Torah, and according to the translation that I have, it's a rock badger. What does Plout say? Anyone want to take a guess? It's in verse 5. Does he say rock badger? I'll be shocked. The daman? Are you sure that's not? Okay. It's a hyrax I've seen as well.
It's a small Asian animal of the hyrax family.
Okay. And I want to say like coney was another word that I found for it, but I think that's a hot dog. They have been in the Midwest too.
Coney is a rabbit.
Okay.
It's a small rabbit. It goes on to say it's a small rabbit.
Okay, well, for a word that only appears twice in the Torah, there's a whole lot of commentary about which animal that specifically is, but don't eat it. That's the moral of the story, because he chews the cud, but he doesn't have split hooves, and therefore he's unclean to you. The etha or nevet, which is the hair, you should not keep. Again, they all have the same problem where they have one but not the other. Ufarsa lo hifrisa tmea hi lechem. So it is also considered unclean to you. The et ha-chazir, chazir I'm sure sounds familiar. Or, well, there's the Yiddish, which is the chazir, right? Chazir is the swine. Kima fris parsahi, the shesa Shosha parsahi, because it doesn't chew its cud. Yera lo igor tamehu lachem, it is considered impure to you, mi bisaram, of all of the different types of flesh. Lo tochlu benivlatam, lo tiga'u tmeim heim lachem. So you are to not eat them, and their carcasses you should not touch, because they are also supposed to be impure to you or unclean. That said, tochelu mikol asher b'mayim, but these you can eat from within the waters. Kol asher lo snapir v'kashkeshet b'mayim. So snapir v'kashkeshet, these are words that also in English you would be more familiar with. These are the fins and the scales, right, that also define what we're allowed to have. Bayamim of nachalim, of tam, that these are in the seas and in the rivers, you may eat of them. The kol asher ein lo snapir v'kashkeshet, but if it doesn't have these fins and scales, b'mayim of nachalim, mikol sheretz hamayim, and these are again within all these different forms of water, and of all of the things that swarm in the water, mikol nefesh hachaya, among all the things that are alive, asher b'mayim, shaketz heim lachem. This is saying that all of them are detestable to you. And I'm going to stop there. But the list goes on. There are quite a few more things. But again, some of those words I'm sure you heard over and over, shosa'at, shesa, the kaskeset, snapir. When you hear these are words that remind us that we're looking at kashrut, because these are the words that are so significant when we think about it today, not just the meat and the milk. We'll join together for the blessing after. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. While we have our Torah open in our midst, it is an opportunity for us to think of those in our community who are not with us here tonight, who are in need of healing, of body, of mind, of spirit. We think, especially at this time, of Christina Lobertini Burks, Dave Cox, Jim Levinson, Jody Lapine, Noah Carrico, Larry Weinberger, Jody Weinberger, Ralph Schwartz, Jim Locke, Dick Levinson, Mitchell Quint, Gary Pacernick, Cicely Nathan, Linda Dean Harris, William Rossi, Rosalind Moss, Jaron McDonald, Marty Sacker, Bob Kahn, and Deborah Seidel, those we name now in our heart, and any others whose names you want to bring forward at this time, please do so. Yishuberach Avotenu v'Imotenu, Yishuberach v'Rapeh et HaCholim. May the one who has brought healing to those of our ancestors in the past continue to bring healing to all we love. Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim, blessed are you, O God, the one who brings healing to the sick. Page 253 are the words for Mishaberach. Please join with me. Mishaberach Avotenu, Mekor habracha le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu, Mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Did you want to read the Ukraine? We also consider those in the Ukraine at this time who are in need of so very much, including the healing of spirit and mind. I offer this prayer for the Ukraine by Joanne Fink on our behalf. Holy One, source of strength, war has begun and innocent people are dying. We ask your protection for Ukraine and its citizens. We pray for their safety and the security of their country, and for the neighboring countries, Hungary, Poland, and Romania, among others, that have opened their borders to provide humanitarian corridors of safe passage for all those who wish to evacuate. We seek the comfort of believing that everything will be all right, even in the fate of insurmountable odds. Quiet the fears that threaten to deafen us. Grant us shalemut, the inner peace we so desperately seek. Help us to remain calm and reach out to those in need. May this horrific situation be diffused swiftly with minimal casualties. Bless our world leaders with the ability to work together for the greater good and the wisdom to make wise decisions during this turbulent time. Bless the people of all nations with the desire, strength, and courage to create a world based on justice and filled with peace. May the words of Isaiah 2:4, nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore, become true in our day, in this very hour. Source of goodness, shine your healing light on us and all those in the Ukraine we hold in our hearts. Shelter us, shield us, and show us the path to peace. And let us say, Amen. And there will be opportunities for us to help in the coming weeks, so pay attention to tickets.
We ride. We rise as the Torah is lifted and the microphone turns on. V'zot Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Yalla la la, yalla la la la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Gotta get used to the microphone being there. It's just the microphone, it just sounds very loud. And Scott, I'm glad you're here because you'll laugh at this part because it's opening day. But I can't see your face, and no, I'm not talking about baseball. Though I hear that's in the news too because it got delayed, and that's the most I will talk about baseball because that's about all I know. But I do know it is opening day in the tabernacle this week because after several Torah portions related to the instructions for building it, a minor digression with the golden calf, building the tabernacle, a whole bunch of more laws about sacrifices in the priestly service, and now 7 days of inaugural rites and rituals performed by Moses, Aaron, and the other priests. They are finally ready to use the tabernacle. And it only took until we got to Leviticus chapter 9-ish. So Aaron and his sons, I imagine them, they're going to offer some wonderful sacrifices, which God commanded them to do. And I also imagine that they are perhaps a little bit nervous. They need to get everything just by this rule book. It's not like we've been talking about the rules for months. And it's the very first time they're doing it. As I read this portion and read of this first actual service in the tabernacle, it reminds me a bit of that first swim meet of each season where you've got a little bit of jitters, and I'll turn to my baseball-loving fans over there, though I suppose they're not the only ones in the room, that sometimes it takes you a little bit in a new season to get into the groove. In the opening chapter of our portion, the 8th day, Shmini, it all works out well. Everything goes, and as promised, the Israelites experience God in their midst. It seems like this first game goes off without a hitch, and the home team takes home a victory. But then, I could use a curveball metaphor here. It takes a turn. I'm going to stop with the sports metaphors, I promise. And it takes a turn in the next couple verses, and we hear, now Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, each took his fire pan and placed in it fire, and placed on it incense, and brought it before God, a strange fire which God had not commanded them. And a fire went out from before Adonai and consumed them, and they died before God. 3 verses, they attempt to bring an offering, and they get burned to death because of it. And then they died before God, and Moses said to Aaron, this is what God was referring to when God said, with those close to me I will be sanctified, and before the entire nation I will be honored. And Aaron, most famously, was silent. In the next couple of verses, we're told that Aaron and his immediate family are instructed specifically not to mourn, while the rest of the Israelites can. It's an interesting scene in the Bible, to say the least. Many rabbis over the years have commented on the instruction not to mourn or on Aaron's silence. Many have tried to figure out what was wrong with Nadav and Abihu's sacrifice, with their fire that they brought, what makes it this strange or alien fire. Perhaps it reminds us a little bit back to Cain and Abel in Genesis, where Cain's sacrifice is not accepted, but Abel's is. That doesn't end so well for them either. Well, I guess for Abel. In the first chapter of our portion, the sacrifices that were commanded were accepted, but here, these who many of the rabbinic commentaries see Nadav and Abihu as bringing them with eagerness are not. Something that perhaps with Cain's was one of the reasons that his wasn't. So what exactly was their sin? What was this strange fire? Why did it warrant death? Like, this is their first attempt at offerings in the tabernacle. You got it wrong, you die. Doesn't exactly inspire people to want to be priests. Our rabbinic tradition is that Moses, in that strange response to Aaron about this is what God must have meant, was that God was going to sacrifice Moses, the rabbis say that Moses thinks God is going to sacrifice one of them, either Moses or Aaron, to sanctify God's name when the tabernacle is completed. So perhaps Moses is a little relieved here. And I always wonder why. And I've always been troubled by that notion that we would need to lose some of our greatest leaders to sanctify God's name. I think we can come up with a few other ways to sanctify God's name. Thank you very much. The rabbinic imagination asks why if this was the purpose, why would Nadav and Abihu be closer to God than Moses and Aaron? They've been mentioned in the book of Exodus, but compared to Moses and Aaron, we hear a lot more about them. In the rabbinic imagination, Nadav and Abihu's act, this sacrifice that God didn't ask for, embodies the values of spontaneity, imagination, and creativity, which according to Moses are privileged above the days of the 7 days of preparatory events and doing everything by the book. And this is what gives them the reward of sanctifying God's name. I never really bought that understanding. But this year I'm looking at it a little bit differently. The notion of sacrificing living beings altogether, animals or otherwise, to bring us near to God doesn't so much speak to our own practice. But the idea of doing something a little bit different than it's been done before, or a little bit different than we've been asked to do it, that we're more familiar with. So how do we balance the fixed aspects of our tradition with spontaneity? And I could give you all of Reform history, but I won't. And can we do this in the temple? Perhaps with Nadav and Abihu, the issue was not that they were doing something that wasn't specifically commanded, but doing it in the temple. I'm not going to go down that road either. But we're at times challenged to challenge the status quo, the way we're told to do things, sometimes in big ways, sometimes in small ways, with the idea of drawing us closer to a goal, whether that goal is to be near God or something else in the end. One of the reasons I'm looking at this a little different this Shabbat is over the past week, we've marked the 100th anniversary of, anybody know? The first bat mitzvah. Judith Kaplan was called to the Torah on March 18th, 1922, at the Society for the Advancement of Judaism. And I imagine in her time, amongst her community, that this was a time of celebration. And I can also imagine at her time that there were Jews elsewhere in her community or in the United States that wondered, what are you doing? God didn't tell us to do that. How daring to call a woman to the Torah. Which ironically, I could go into more of history, was not quite as novel as you would think, but in that time had not been part of Jewish practice until then. And as we know now, we call women to the Torah without thinking twice about it. Case in point, your Bima, or your Bima team, I should say. Perhaps calling a woman to the Torah was something alien, something akin to this alien fire of Nadav and Avihu, but she wasn't devoured by God, so I think we're good. Judaism's growth through history, from our biblical ancestors to today, has been filled with challenges of determining the appropriate balance of the right way to do things with the spontaneity, the innovation, and the enthusiasm that we bring that maybe aren't how it was always done, especially in our reform movement, but I would argue that is true of any flavor of Judaism out there. And so I play with these concepts tonight, and I will conclude with words based on a blessing written by Rabbi Lauren Graybell Herman, who actually is serving the congregation that Judith Kaplan was called to the Torah in, not just any rabbi. As we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Bat Mitzvah, and I'm adding in the 50th anniversary of women being in the rabbinate this coming year, we are grateful for the bravery of our female pioneers, their chutzpah and their commitment to step forward, to innovate, and to inspire generations to follow in their footsteps. May we be blessed with satisfaction in seeing young people of all genders engaged equally in Judaism. May we find continued success in our efforts to create a community for all Jews, and may we find health and joy along the way as we move together and build this future. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. And somewhere in here, I put my service outline. We'll rise as we return toward to the Ark, page 256. Shalom, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Venashuva, Chadesh, Yameinu Keketen, Chadesh Yameinu Keketen.
We continue now on page 282 with Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kadoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol havonam. Ve'nachnu korim u'mishtaveim Kadosh Baruch Hu, V'nemar v'haya Adonai, Lamelech al kol haaretz, Vayom hahu, Yihyeh Adonai echad, U'shemo echad. You may be seated. We haven't read it for a while, so I'd like to on page 287. I say that as if I've been here the last 3 months. Sorry. But may we gain, or this is not the page before, page 285. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We now think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. We are in a period of Shiva for Claire Lee Lieberman, and a period of Shloshim for Marilyn Abrams and Janice Albert. We also remember those who died at this season in years past, those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We are observing yahrzeits for Esther Z. Arnovitz, Evelyn O. Ball, Meta Burrell, Jack Burke, Elizabeth Carney, Helene Char, Ella Rao Cohen, Elizabeth Cohen, Ruth Dorfman, Rosa Fleece, Jack Flyer, Ray First, Gary Geis, James Harris, Ruth Hockman, Augusta Israel, David Laderman, Clarence Lapides, Carol Levine McBride, Hyman Office, Jack Rosenthal, Yetta Ryderband, Claire Schaefer, Selma Schwartz, Jack R. Shaman, Anna D. Silverman, Harry Spiegelman, Greta Dohan Spager, Ted Thayer, Sandra Tolpin, Alvin Wasserman, David J. Weinreich, Deborah Williams, May Wolpa, and Robert Zappin. And I invite anyone to raise up names of people who should be included on this list, or perhaps their names should be pronounced more correctly. I invite all who are in mourning or who are remembering to please rise. And we as a community rise with them now as we turn to the page 294 for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach yutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam v'lo maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal, shemei dekucha barichu, le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, ta'amiran b'yoma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'ramav, Huya asay shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Zikronam livracha, may their memories always and only be for a blessing. You may be seated. We'll turn now to page 321 for our closing song. And I will find out what tune we're doing once I start singing. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, V'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, L'yet Nasa, B'chefso kol, Azan Malach Shamo Nivra, Adon Olam, V'yacharei Kiplot Chachol, Levado Yimloch Nara, Adon Olam, V'hu Haya, V'hu Hoveh, V'hu Yeh L'tifara, Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, V'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, L'yet Nasa, B'chefzo kol, Azan Melech Shamo Nivra, Adon Olam, V'hu Echad Ve'en Sheni, L'hamshilo L'hachbira, Adon Olam, V'li Reshit, V'li Tachlit, V'lo Ha'os V'ha'mizra, Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, V'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, L'yet Nasa, B'chefzo kol, Azan Melech Shamo Nivra, Adon Olam, V'hu Eli, V'chai Goali, V'tzur Chevli V'etzara, Adon Olam, V'hu Nisi, Umanosli, V'nakasi V'yom Mikra, Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, V'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, L'yet Nasa, B'chefzo kol, Azan Melech Shamo Nivra, Adon Olam, V'yado Avkid Ruchi, V'yet Dishan V'yayira, Adon Olam, V'im Ruchi, Geviati, Adon Lili V'lo Ira, Adon Olam. And because I have the opportunity, I get to tell my joke that I haven't probably told you in a long time. If any of you remember it, sorry. There are 3 cowboys named in Adon Olam. Anyone want to take a guess at who they are? 3 cowboys. Those of you who've heard it are probably doing this. Scott, do you know?
It wouldn't be fair if I did it.
Sure.
You've got Kid Rugi,
Yep.
Billy Rashid,
Yep.
and Billy Copley.
Yep. Billy Rashid, Billy Tockley, and Kid Ruki.
Oh,
You have to beware of your real best humor. Thank you. That was my husband. We'll continue in the hall with Kiddush and Motzi as we celebrate the Sabbath. And again, Shabbat Shalom. It is truly wonderful to be in community with you on this Shabbat.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Are we going to make an attempt at blessing on the wine, anybody? I cannot
Sure.
sing, but I'll do my best. Let's see if Rabbi comes and says hello to us, like she did last week. Do you have bread, Tom? Did you bring your bread?
One by the time I realized it.
Yes.
It was gonna be just us up here, so didn't bother going back.
Got it. Before we do Kiddush and Motzi, I wanted to just say hello to all of you. Again, I keep putting my head so that you can't see me.
Hello.
Hello.
Everyone, and I hope that you guys will join together as a community again, like you did last time, and do your Kiddush and Motzi together. So, and I can't hear anyone, so if you're talking, I apologize. I think you're muted maybe, but you can send me an email.
Okay, Shabbat shalom.
Who can sing?
We ready?
Sure.
She can sing.
Baruch
Adonai, Elohim, Borei Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher shanu mitzvotav v'rabanu v'shabbat kodesh v'yabarotav v'kilanu zikaron b'sefer Bereshit Kihu yom tehillah Mikmai kodesh Zei kebutzman Mitzrayim Kivanu v'chartam Otanu tidashtam Mikol ha'amim V'shabbat Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh Shabbat. Amen. Chaim.
Chaim.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, Joe.
Shabbat shalom.
And Linda.
Bye-bye.
Emotzi?
Sure.
Do it.
We give
Voices
and song together as our prayer is said. Good job.
Our heart was in it anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you can actually do this with different cameras at the same time. So we do a very good job.
And that delay, you know, because each one has a different delay.
Right, right. It's nice for Rabbi Karen to come and say hello to us. She knows we're out here.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely.
So I hope I see some of you tomorrow on Torah study.
We will.
See you tomorrow. Hi, Tom. Hi. See you
Shabbat
over there.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Mhm.